listening to America First Radio.
And we're gonna win, and we're gonna make America great again!
Here is your host, Paul Adams.
Hey, hi everyone, this is Paul Adams with America First Radio, and we're going for episode number 8. When I heard that Mike Pence endorsed Paul Ryan, my stomach just turned. What was going on? Was there already a split in the team here? Then I heard Trump explain in a rally how Mike had approached him about it before he endorsed Ryan, and I'm sure they decided it would be a unifying gesture, even though Ryan and Cruz and Jeff Beck are having their own Never Trump convention in August. Can you believe that? Talk about political kamikazes. I wouldn't doubt it if Romney will be there and Bush along with Lindsey Graham. So, Trump continues to surge in the polls, and as we know, Hillary's polls are nothing but push polls. They survey loyal Democrats and they come up with these skewed polls. For the first time in election history, it looks like the social media is going to be the deciding factor. Polls don't even play a role anymore. And I love how Trump has been bashing Hillary in his rallies, especially when he never leaves any doubt as to why she had a private email server. In his rallies, he underscores the fact that she was trying to hide her racketeering. That was the bottom line. I love how he spends a good 5 minutes taking her apart, piece by piece. I wish he would include how she was fired without a letter of recommendation and was blacklisted at the age of 27. That was when she worked for the Watergate Commission. There's the hacked emails which show now that the DNC stole the nomination, that they planned the protests against Trump. There's so much red meat coming out of WikiLeaks. And of course we now learned that the NSA has all of her deleted emails. For once we can thank the NSA. All those 30,000 deleted emails the NSA has. Plus Russia, of course, has more than 20,000 of her emails, as does Julian Assange, who has promised to release more emails, which in his words will guarantee Hillary is indicted. So bring out the popcorn. Let's see what happens here. Hillary held a news conference of sorts the other day. She was asked about Comey's comments, which contradicted hers. And in her true Alinsky fashion, she danced around the subject, pretending there was no discrepancy between her statements and Comey's. Why didn't these reporters ask her the tough questions that everyone needs to know about? Like, why she defended Black Panthers who had killed white security guards and cops when she was younger. Why she was fired from the Watergate Commission and why she was blacklisted after that. Or why she wasn't allowed entry into the D.C. bar or any other bar and had to resort to the Arkansas bar. Or why she covered up for Bill's rapes by silencing the woman he raped. Or why she sold arms to ISIS from Libya. Or how much advanced knowledge she had about Benghazi attacks, which coincided with the New York 9/11 attacks. And then there is that one simple question no one has asked her, which would really clear up the air in my opinion. And that question is, Hillary, as Secretary of State, it was your job to send and receive classified emails. Why do you keep saying you never sent or received any classified emails? But no one in the mainstream media has the guts to ask her those questions because, as we all know, the mainstream media is controlled by the Democratic Party. All stories are scrubbed by the DNC before they are released. We find now that this is the case thanks to WikiLeaks. Then you have this crazy guy, what's his name, Chris Kahn, who has been linked to the Muslim Brotherhood, who shut down his website that was promoting his services for Muslim immigration, who is a Sharia law expert, who was paid by the Clinton Foundation and asked to speak by the DNC party, a bankrupt party that stole the primary nomination in favor of a candidate who under normal circumstances would have been charged with racketeering, espionage, and perjury, a candidate who has been given marching orders to allow Muslims into Europe and America in the name of cultural diversity, and has been paid hundreds of millions of dollars by a country where you can't find a single church or synagogue. I'm talking about Saudi Arabia. And a country which has paid off all its hotheads who are ready to spark a Saudi spring, drove them out, and had them use U.S.-made Humvees across the open desert, undetected by our satellites, as Russia keeps knocking the tar out of them. Do you see how convoluted this puzzle is? And you got to ask, who benefits? Apart from the arms manufacturers, apart from Soros, who's trying to bring down America, bring it down to its knees. Who benefits from ISIS wreaking havoc in the Middle East and demonizing Assad? Who else? Read between the lines. It should be staring you in the face. Now, if you haven't learned already, Hillary did suffer a stroke a few years ago. And psychiatric evaluations on Hillary's strange behavior lately indicate that she's predisposed to sociopathic tendencies, like an inability to empathize with people. She has what's called social skills deficiency. She has to overcompensate her emotive responses. And she's a compulsive liar. She has this inappropriate laughter, and she does tend to have convulsions. A videotape of her responding to reporters leaves us baffled at how she could possibly convulse that way. It's too much information coming at her that causes that, and that's part of the stroke. Also, a close-up of her tongue shows she has a pit on the top of her tongue the size of a dime. You can Google that, check it out for yourself. Is it a sign of possible venereal disease? Because if you look at similar pictures online, they look very much like symptoms of syphilis. And that would explain a lot, okay? So, with all that in the backdrop, let's pull back here to 100,000 feet and get a really satellite view of what's going on. That means we're going to examine the elite, the globalists, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the George Soros Club. As much as they want us to focus at what is going on at the local level, with the police shootings, ISIS, the weekly fare of distractions, we cannot let them off our sights. We must try to think as they think. You see, when you have $1 billion or a few $1 trillion stashed away, vacations don't matter anymore. How much pleasure can you enjoy before you get bored? And also, if you don't believe in God, well, what do you do with your life? You play the part of God. You look at nations like you would a craps table, betting on outcomes and trying to influence outcomes. Entire populations become nothing but inputs in an equation. And if you take it to the next level and ascribe to Luciferian teachings and start believing in demonic powers, as many of these people do, then there is no right or wrong. The world becomes a series of causes and effects. So what could they be planning for America? Because they know that if they lose this election to Trump, they are done. Will they test the will of the American people? Are there enough Americans who are awake and vigilant, or is the majority too busy being entertained? I think it's the latter. I don't think there would be any kind of uprising or revolution if America was swallowed up by the globalists. Life would go on and would eventually become a banana republic, with all the safety nets straining, the national debt out of control, immigration out of control, food stamp recipients, and crime out of control. We could very easily become another Venezuela. They could orchestrate it so that they pit the Democrats against the Republicans, as they have been for decades, and blame the whole thing on the two-party system. Then, even if Trump does win, how long will the party last? How long will nationalism last? What happens when his 2 terms are up? What are we going to find out? We're going to find out that the globalists are lurking behind the bushes. They're just ready to get back on track and take America down. Where are we going to find another Trump with a private jet who can whisk around the country and put America first? Is it not more likely that we will end up where we are now? Will there not be a new globalist ready to take the place of George Soros, should he pass away? So I'm thinking way out into the future. I'm thinking about the survival of America, the prosperity of America. Because there's a lot of people who have already counted America out. They think that we're in a post-American world. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are seeing the old system of political corruption being replaced with a new openness, a new vitality, where truth, transparency, accountability are the new coins of the realm, the new modus operandi, the new norm. We can't ever go back to old world politics. If there is to be any kind of new world order, it must be based on truth, transparency, and accountability. So now we come to the heart of the matter. America and its government. If America was a car, it would be exhibiting engine problems right about now. So what do you do when your car has engine problems? You take it to a mechanic and he performs a series of diagnostic tests. Now, a good mechanic will tell you if the rings on the pistons are worn, if the piston is cracked. A crooked mechanic will tell you you need more work than you actually need done, and a stupid mechanic or inept mechanic will tell you you need to change your oil more often. So if we did a diagnostic test on America, what would we find? Well, for one, we would find that the representatives of the people who are supposed to represent the people no longer answer their phone calls and emails. They represent roughly 600,000 constituents. That's per representative. We'll find out that representatives are prone to be bribed and that they represent the interests of the special interests. We would find that primaries are rigged, as we already know, that there's election fraud, that candidates who should be in jail are campaigning for president, that the people cannot find a way to impeach a president or other elected official, that all representatives are held hostage by blackmail, that pay-to-play is rampant both on a national and an international level. You would find that wars are draining our coffers but are benefiting the interests of the gun manufacturers and other nations that rely on wars to keep their enemies at bay. And they use us as the police force. You would find that the word peace is a euphemism for stalemate diplomacy. That representatives make money by aiding and abetting the enemy. And that oil is used as a weapon and representatives, the people we elect in Congress, would rather side with foreign powers that own oil reserves than represent the interests of the American people. And that presidents have in the past been selected, not elected, but selected by globalist powers. So it's not a pretty picture. It's not a healthy diagnosis. Not at all. That is a diagnosis that precedes the end of an empire. And many people expect and work very hard behind the scenes as intellectuals, as writers, as educators, as shills to create that outcome. And so, my dear friends, America needs to wake up and wake up now. Whatever happened to the concept of government of the people, by the people, and for the people? Was not that the primary objective when this nation was created? It was not to create a bigger government that controlled the people. It was not to create a two-party system that keeps the people divided while the banks profit. It was not to create a dog of war that is wagged by an insecure little tail. That was not the primary purpose of creating America. And so, my fellow Americans, what is the solution? We have an engine that is malfunctioning. And we know one thing. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again while expecting different results. Now, some will argue that we need to shorten term limits. And I have to laugh. You have to laugh at this solution. That's like the mechanic who wants you to change your oil more often. Crooks in Congress will still be crooks, no matter how short their term is. The special interests will simply reduce work for representatives from full-time to part-time. The benefits will still be the same. Any fool who tells you that shortening term limits is the answer needs to be labeled as a globalist shill. Very simple. What would the Founding Fathers had done if they were alive? What would they have done if the moral imperative, the objective, the end game was to create a government that was of, by, and for the people? They would have looked around at our technology. They would have said, we gave you a 2-cylinder gas engine way back when. America needs a more efficient, people-friendly 12-cylinder engine. Now, I wrote a message and tweeted it to Mr. Trump because I know he will recognize it as a workable solution, at least a starting point for an open public debate. And believe me, folks, we need to discuss this. We need to look at all options. But this is essentially what I said to him. Dear Mr. Trump, America needs a new engine. We need to abolish the House of Representatives. Now, some of you hearing this, you're already saying, we have a representative republic. But you are the same people who believe that insanity is a good thing. You like to elect the same representatives who will be corrupted, who will be manipulated, who will be blackmailed and bought off. So we need to replace the corruptible, easily co-opted human factor that is the House of Representatives with direct representation of, by, and for the people. This would mean that we should install a secure online, and I mean triple encrypted, hack-proof, Fort Knox /Vatican /IBM /Apple /NSA caliber online system that would give each citizen an account, just like a bank account or an eBay account And with that account, a citizen would have access to all the bills being voted on by the Senate. Yes, we would still have a Senate. And the people would be able to veto any Senate vote. Then, in that account, the people would be able to elect their president and senators, their local officials, state officials, any office that is electable by the people. And on top of that, the people would be able to impeach a non-performing president, a delinquent senator who never shows up for work, a treasonous Speaker of the House who aligns himself with globalist policies. You get the picture. Plus, on top of all this account would allow the people to initiate referendums and to ratify changes to their own constitution. And last of all, the people would be able to veto any presidential executive order. So how does that sound to you? So far so good? Can you see how corruption would then be eliminated? Because they can corrupt all the people in Congress, but they can't corrupt 300 million citizens. Can you see how unconstitutional edicts would never see the light of day? Can you see how this would be a government model that is of, by, and for the people, and how it would withstand the test of time as we roll forward into the next 1,000 years? Now, if you have suggestions to improve on the theme, I would love to hear from you. You can email me at americafirstradio@gmail.com. Having put that out there now, I feel like my mission on earth is completed. I am ready to go, Lord. Anytime you want, you can take me back home. I've done my part. God bless America.